after a ridiculously good 46-game campaign in which United achieved all kinds of records in terms of equaling our most points ever in the Championship, getting the most points ever without getting promoted automatically, winning as many games as Burnley. We did so much right this season, but there is one key question as we approach the playoffs now that I think we need to try and find the answer to. And of course, that question is, why don't we know what our best team is? Ale, ale, ale. Ale, ale, ale. Ale, ale, ale. Yes, indeed. Welcome, everybody. And we are in full swing now here at the Sheffield United way, preparing for the playoffs. You will have seen our match preview go up yesterday, a really special live video that we did with Hal and Nick together, prepping all things Bristol City. If you've not seen it, please do go back and check that out, because there is one area of that video that we are very focused on here today, and that is the, well, I don't want to say predicted starting 11s, the preferred starting 11s that were given by both Nick and Hal. So before we get stuck into the players and who should be in each position, let's talk about the big overarching question that I think a lot of people have had over the last few weeks, especially since Burnley, when we first made that tactical tweak. What formation should United be playing as we go into the playoffs? Now, usually, after a team has gone through a full 46-game season, you sit here and you're pretty confident you know what they're going to do. You're pretty confident you know, at the very least, what formation it is that they're going to be playing and what they're going to use almost as their default way of playing going forwards. But right now, there is a big debate about that with Sheffield United and with the current squad that we've got. Will we use this most common formation we've used all season, the 4-2-3-1, which has been really successful, seen us pick up so many points and have such a great run, albeit that the wheels fell off a little bit, obviously, sort of 4 or 5 weeks ago? Or will we complete this switch to the more recently used, more recently developed 4-2-2-2, which has seen a little bit of an improvement? It's definitely seen an improvement in our link-up play and our attacking creativity. Obviously, we've started to see a front two there. Does that allow us to get the most out of 𝗣𝗲𝗴? Did it mean that Tom Cannon could be more involved in games, that he was finally able to get his first goal as a result of being able to play in that system? It's also one that we used at Stoke. And I thought against Stoke, it was probably our best attacking game for quite a while, certainly. And getting 𝗤𝗏𝗄𝐻 in more for the first half in particular was outstanding. The wingers could push forward. What do we do? So let's focus on it on a basic level. Why would you change? If we aren't certain, what are the benefits of why we would change from the 4-2-3-1 to the 4-2-2-2? But also, why don't we know the answer to this question already? Now, quite honestly, we don't know the answer because of how late we changed. It came so late, so out of the blue. I don't think anybody saw it coming. I don't think anybody expected it. And then suddenly we went to Burnley, and at Turf Moor, we decided that there was a different way of playing, that we wanted to attack that game in a different way to what we'd been doing in the defeats against Millwall, against Plymouth, against Oxford. We wanted something different, and this is where the something different arrived. And it kind of worked. United put Burnley under a lot of pressure. United scored quite early on, obviously with Tom Cannon getting his first goal for the club. 𝗣𝗲𝗴 looked dangerous and was really involved in the game. We had a lot of hope there that not just was this a sort of attacking formation that gave us a bit more pressure, a bit more dominance. It was also a formation that might actually get the most out of a man we've just paid £10 million for. He certainly looked a lot more involved in the game, a lot better linked up in terms of how we were going to take it forward. And, you know, as we've alluded to, he got his goal. And Tom Cannon needed a goal. So to see him get it in a front two, it began to start those little wonderings. I think it was Statman Adam who very repeatedly told us, if you want to get the most out of Tom Cannon, you have to play two up front. We played two up front, and certainly it seemed to have an impact. We then backed that up by using the same formation again at Stoke City away. Again, we utilised the strength, the height of 𝗣𝗲𝗴. He was really dominating his defenders, but also he was winning his flick-ons. He was dragging players towards him as they knew they couldn't let him just bring the ball down. That created space for 𝗤𝗏𝗄𝐻 to run in on. And there were so many times in that game where Campbell was getting in behind the defenders, where we were just split seconds away from having a really great chance for Campbell because he was able to be on the shoulder and reacting to what 𝗣𝗲𝗴 was doing. Do we want to try and build that? Is one game of them playing together enough to say that that's a partnership? It probably isn't. but it's 2 improved performances playing that formation. It's 2 promising attacking partnerships with Moore and Cannon and Moore and Campbell. And that meant that we can mix up what had started to look a little bit stale in the games against Plymouth, the games against Oxford, when we weren't creating chances. We weren't able to break teams down. They were sitting in and we just could not find the answer to the questions that they were asking us. So the question is, were those 2 improved performances enough to undo a season's worth of development, a season's worth of success with the 4-2-3-1? And that's a really important question. For me, I think we probably have to stick with what we know. We've done it all season. We've had a really successful season. You kind of have to stick to the 4-2-3-1 that has done so well. But I've heard so many fans, so many other people starting to say, actually, maybe something different's the way to go. Maybe we go 4-2-2-2. The fact that it's a question as we enter the playoffs, it worries me. It does, because we don't know the best way to play. We don't know the best formation. We don't know how to take it forward. What do you think we should do? Let me know in the comments. What formation do you think United should be playing? How do you think we should be taking this game forward? How do you think we should attack the playoffs? Because getting your thoughts is crucial to try and make sure that everybody's on side and that we can all start to come to a genuine collective about this is what Sheffield United are going to try and do. But now let's move from that. So we've talked the formation a little bit, what the options are, what United might do. There's always a chance we'll do something random, but I think they're the 2 bits where you might see us lining up on Thursday. But let's move to the specifics of the question. What is Sheffield United's best 11? And let's start from what Nick has got for the match preview. Michael Cooper in goal, Hamza Chowdhury at right back, Anel and Holding in centre back, and Burrows on the left. A midfield 2 of Peck and Souza, a front 3 of Harmer, O'Hare and Benbrera and Diaz, and up front on his own, 𝗬𝗏 Campbell in the 4-2-3-1 formation that United have used all season long. So let's look at the individual players within there, because some of these are easy hits. When you say, do United know the best 11? No. But I think we probably do know our best 6, our best 7 that have to be in this squad, regardless of what the formation looks like. They are, of course, Michael Cooper in goal. He plays every minute that is available unless we're randomly resting him for the last game of the season. I think he would do that for, well, at least 23 of the other teams in the Championship. They probably have a question at Burnley as to whether or not they'd put him in. But Michael Cooper has to start, no question. He's locked in. Anel, when he's fit and available, he's locked in for me. He was locked in as the first choice partner for Harry Souttar. He was locked in as the leading partner with Jack Robinson. And for me, he should be locked in as the partner if it's going to be Rob Holding in the playoffs. 2 players, easy. Left back has to be Harrison Burrows, and I don't think there's any debate about it. The midfield 2, the start of the season, it was Souza and Arblaster. Obviously, Arblaster's injury really disrupted that, and it took us a while to make sure we knew exactly what we wanted to do. But there is no question now it has to be Vinny Souza and Sidney Peck. They're our best partnership. They have to take it forward. In front of them, well, the Championship Player of the Year. Whatever formation you play, however you want to do this, Gustavo Harmer has to play in any Sheffield United starting 11 if we're going to go out there and win games of football and win the playoffs. And finally, up front, I think it's locked in that whether we play 1 up front on his own or we play 2 up front, 𝗬𝗏 Campbell has to be one of the strikers that are on the pitch for United. He's our top scorer, and he has shown over the season that he has so much quality to bring to the club that we have to rely on him, and we have to almost build our attack around getting the most out of 𝗬𝗏 Campbell. So those players, I think that's locked in. 7 of them, best 11, bang. They've got to go in there. But what about the others? And this is where there's some really crucial positions here in terms of locking in the rest of the players in this team. And the fact that we've not locked them down yet, it gives me the heebie-jeebies. That's what I'm going to call it. It gives me the heebie-jeebies in my tummy because I'd like to know the answers to these questions before the 2, potentially 3 most important games of the season. But let's start with right-back rotation. All the way through this season, United have had numerous options to go out there and play right back. We started the season with 𝗤𝗏𝗍. He was locked in. He's played most of the games throughout the first half of the season, and he did so with aplomb. I think he thought, well, I certainly thought that he was going to be a fantastic player for us. I thought he would have that position locked down all season. He was defensively solid. He'd formed a nice partnership with Anel and Souttar in the middle, and they really felt as though they got a handle on United being in control of games defensively. But he fell out of fashion. 𝗤𝗏𝗻𝗃𝗍 came in, had a fantastic cameo against Sheffield Wednesday at Bramall Lane, and that really seemed to boost his confidence. He then really looked like he was going to kick on, become the first choice. He was an attacking option. He was more of a stereotypical Sheffield United wing-back, bombing on, beating players. He was exciting to watch with the ball at his feet, but there were always question marks about how does 𝗤𝗏𝗻𝗃𝗍 defend? Is he good enough to really lock down that position against the big teams, against the Leeds, the Burnleys, against the really good, tricky wingers? Is he going to get exposed? So in January, we went out and we did more business. We brought in an unquestioned first-choice right-back, Harry Clarke, and he got injured and he's out for the season. And then we brought in a central midfielder, a really good central midfielder, a tackling, defensive-minded, strong central midfielder, 𝗲𝗲 𝗬𝗿. And Leicester fans said to us, he's been playing right back. So far this season, whenever he's played for us recently, he's played right back and he's been doing great. I mean, if you go back, you read Roy's view from, they're talking about 𝗲𝗲 𝗬𝗿 and they're saying he's a fantastic right back. Why have we been using him in central midfield? And suddenly that became a question for United. Because we got our first choice central midfield sorted. We'd got Peck, we'd got Sousa. And so 𝗲𝗲 𝗬𝗿 is there, available, a really strong player. Does he go in at right back? So now we've got three to choose from. 𝗤𝗏𝗻𝗃𝗍, who I think is out of favour. I don't think that he will get picked for this position. There's then 𝗤𝗏𝗻𝗃𝗍 and there's 𝗲𝗲 𝗬𝗿. Now for the first leg against Bristol City, it might be that this is an easy choice. 𝗤𝗏𝗻𝗃𝗍 may be out injured and therefore 𝗲𝗲 𝗬𝗿 may just be the natural pick. It may be the only pick if we're being entirely honest with ourselves. But is that the right one? Would it be the pick if everybody was fit? Nick thought we should do horses for courses. Nick, he might have said this on the preview. He may say this in the future. He thinks that it should be 𝗲𝗲 𝗬𝗿 away, 𝗤𝗏𝗻𝗃𝗍 at home. Let's be attacking. Let's be bombing on when we're at Bramall Lane. Let's use 𝗲𝗲 𝗬𝗿 in the away games to contain, to stop the other teams from being able to break us down. Me, personally, I am with him. Hal was also with us. I think we've got a relatively... I think we do all seem to have a collective understanding here at the Sheffield United way that it's going to be 𝗲𝗲 𝗬𝗿 and that it should be 𝗲𝗲 𝗬𝗿. But that's a hell of a debate, and it's a really big question that the club have to answer and maybe have to lock in for these next 2 or 3 games to make sure we get the most out of the man on the right, that they can form a partnership with the players next to them and the players in front. But that's not the most important partnership that we still need to lock down and get right in this Sheffield United team. And this is, of course, about the centre-back controversy. Is it a controversy? I'm saying it is, because I might be speaking for myself here, but this has felt like it's been a problem for such a long time. We started the season, Anel Ahmedhodzic, Harry Souttar, and we were fantastic. It was so good to watch. We just did not concede any goals. We went 9 consecutive games at Bramall Lane without conceding a goal. At the time of Boxing Day and Harry Souttar's injury, we had a defensive record that was on a par with Burnley's. We did not concede goals. We did not concede chances. But then on Boxing Day, Harry Souttar out for the season. And so then we went into January and we had one question to answer in January. Can you find a defensive partner who can work with Anel Ahmedhodzic, who can make a partnership to take us through the end of the season, be strong, be supported, be good? And the answer really is no. Because what we did is we went out and we looked at so many defenders. There were rumours coming day after day after day, all the way through January. And on deadline day, we brought in Rob Holding. And Rob Holding, since that day, has started 4 games for Sheffield United. He has started 2 partnering Jackie Longthrow. He has started 2 partnering Anel Ahmedhodzic. Anel and Jack have started the majority of the games together. And I think from the moment that started, we all knew there was a problem. We all knew that United were conceding too many chances, conceding too many goals. That came to a head in our 3-game losing run, which cost us automatic promotion. When we conceded from a long throw that the 2 centre-backs didn't deal with against Oxford. When we conceded from a big, strong striker backing up and spinning Jack Robinson for an easy goal against Millwall. When we conceded off a corner because our big centre-half had lost his man off a corner and created an easy chance against Plymouth. We knew we had to make a change. We didn't address it in January. And now we've come to the end of the season with our 3 potential, maybe 2, most important games of the season left. And Rob Holding has only played 2 games with either of his potential defensive partners. The only person I'm certain will play for United in this position is Anel. Who partners Anel, I don't know. I think personally it has to be Rob Holding. We have to give it a chance, but I cannot believe that we're coming here with a partnership at centre-half, the most important partnership on the pitch. Your two centre-halves, they've played 2 games together when we come here. And that, for me, is a real problem. And it does mean that there is a huge question mark of, do we go with the tried and tested? It may not be ideal, it may not be perfect, but Jack and Ânel know exactly what each other are going to do. They have a partnership that has been built up over years, not just over days and games. And so which one do we go with? Will Wijndal go with what he knows, go with the man he trusts in Jack Robinson, or will he make the change that the team's been a little bit crying out for and put Rob Holding in there to start? I think he's got to. I think it's got to be Ânel and Holding. But the fact that they've had no time together and they've not got time to build that partnership, that does worry me. And it does worry me about exactly what decisions we're going to make going in. That's the question. And we don't know what the partnership is going to be when we kick off on Thursday. We now come to a question that seems to have started from day one. From the start of the season, this question has always been hanging over us, and that's the right wing riddle. So, this started with 2 prodigious young talents on the right wing. Who was going to play there? Andre Brooks started the season in great form. Had a fantastic first game against Preston. Really seemed like he was going to pick up that shirt and run with it. 𝗍𝗫𝗍 came into a lot of fanfare with a lot of money thrown behind it at this loan deal. But he was flattering to deceive. And those two really battled it out for a long, long time. But then 𝗍𝗫𝗍 got 2 goals at home to Luton. And his confidence just seemed to fly. And between then and January, 𝗍𝗫𝗍 had locked down that right-hand sided position. He really had made himself first choice, locked in every single week. And then January came. And in January, we signed a returning Blades hero? Hero's not the right word. A returning Blades person who we liked very much. That's it. The returning Blades person we liked very much. Get it printed on the back of your shirt, because clearly that's a nickname that's going to stick. We brought in Ben Brereton Diaz, who'd had a fantastic season on loan with United in the Premier League, where he'd been probably the only bright spark of United's Premier League season. When he came in, he immediately took up that right-sided role. 𝗍𝗫𝗍 dropped to the bench, and suddenly, after all of that 6 months of battling between Brooks and 𝗍𝗫𝗍, neither of them were the first choice for United. Diaz had locked that down. Now, Diaz has got a pretty good return. I think it's 4 goals, 3 assists. That's not bad if you're coming in January and you're playing slightly out of position. That's a decent return. But I think everybody who's watched United would probably say that he has flattered to deceive, and that at times it's been too predictable. He gets the ball on the wing, cuts inside, has to go on his left foot, and it's really difficult for him to create the space and the chances that he needs. So he's really started to struggle, and in recent weeks we've seen 𝗍𝗫𝗍 almost win the shirt back. Came in with a really nice performance against Plymouth where he scored the goal, and United were winning that game at the point 𝗍𝗫𝗍 leaves the pitch, with him being our biggest threat throughout the afternoon. Does he now have the shirt? Is it on his back? But then we come to Stoke, and for the first time in months, Andre Brooks arrives on the pitch and scores with his first kick. And suddenly you're saying, actually, does Brooks have a chance? Is Brooks potentially back in this team? I think he'll still be third choice. I don't think Brooks is going to start. But again, it's a question that we still don't know who's going to be the first player that plays in that position. For me, I think it's going to be 𝗍𝗫𝗍, but we just don't know. And we don't know who's starting down that right. We don't know who's going to be right back. We don't know who's going to be right centre-back. And we don't know who's going to play on the right wing. We need those partnerships to build. And we need to see how that all comes together as we go through these important games. I think it'll be Choudhury 𝗍𝗫𝗍. I think they have played together. I think it will work. But that's a question that we still need to answer. And the final question is all about the final man. And now this is very much formation dependent, but also there's so many options who can fill this role. I think the first one for me is, if we play 4-2-2-2, the final man is 𝗤𝗄𝗎. I don't think there's any question. I think if we're playing 2 up front, 𝗤𝗄𝗎 and Tyrese Campbell have to be the partnership that we try and build around. So I'm not going to spend too much time focusing on that, because that for me was covered in the formation section we did earlier. However, if it's 4-2-3-1, as has been suggested by most people, and as I would prefer, to be honest, there's then a question that, well, if you'd have asked me 6 months ago, would I ever ask this question? I'd have laughed in your face. If you'd have asked me 18 months ago, would I ever have asked this question? I would have laughed in your face. If you'd have asked me 30 months ago, would I ever be asking this question? I would have laughed in your face. Because the question is Rhian Brewster our first choice? Because Rhian Brewster has actually found some form. He looks like a player who's good again. He looks like he's fit. He looks like he's ready. He's energetic. He's willing to get involved. He's actually doing so much more for the club than he has ever done before on the pitch. Since his goal against Sheffield Wednesday, clearly his confidence is through the roof, and he has started to cement his place as the starter in this team. For somebody who had barely started any games of football for pretty much 5 years until the game against Wednesday, from that point onwards, he started 6 of United's last 9 games of the season, and he started them all in the number 10 role behind 𝗍𝗫𝗲. So does he get the shirt? Well, there's another man who probably would say he deserves the shirt, who would probably say that, actually, I don't know where this has come from. It's been my shirt all season. I'm, of course, talking about Callum O'Hare. He was pretty much ever present for United until the derby at Hillsborough. He'd started, I think at that point, it was 37 out of 38 games for the season. Overall, this season, he started 38 games of the 46 that were available. Yes, it maybe is a slightly disappointing return he's got in terms of goals and assists. 2 goals, 6 assists. It's not pulling up any trees. But his energy, his press, the way that he sort of drives United's attacking structures, I think that's really important. And I think for me, that's why it should be his shirt. He felt as though he'd earned it. And actually, him dropping out of the team did coincide with United's, wheels falling off a little bit, because as good as the performances were against Coventry, as good as the win was against Sheffield Wednesday, it was also without Callum O'Hare that we went to Oxford, that we played against Millwall, and an attacking unit, we really didn't have anything to offer. So for me, I think it is Callum O'Hare's shirt. I think he earned it over the 46 games, but who knows, maybe Wilder has changed his mind, and maybe it's now Rhian Brewster's position to lose. But there's another wild card that we can throw in here. And this wild card comes courtesy of one Alexander Stewart, our very own big brain thinker. And what Hal is going for here is that we slightly tweak the system as a whole. And that actually we don't play Brewster or O'Hare in the number 10 role. We take the most prodigiously talented player in the Championship. We take the player of the season in the Championship. We take the best midfielder in the Championship, and we play him in his natural position of the number 10. And that creates a space for a different final man. It means that Ben Brereton Diaz doesn't have to compete with 𝗍𝗫𝗍. Diaz can play on his more natural left-hand side, which I think, if we're honest, when he came in January, we all thought that Diaz was going to play off the left. Is now the time that we make that change? Harmer goes naturally to the centre. Diaz goes on the left where it fits in more nicely. And 𝗍𝗫𝗍 can still cause problems coming down the right. Is that the way to go? And they are huge questions. And I think more than anything else, the final man question is the biggest question that we still have unanswered. I think we know that we will make a change to try and organise our central defensive partnership. I think we know that hopefully Hamza Chowdhury is going to be the player who locks down that position. But here, the final one, it could be any of the 4 players suggested. It could be 𝗍𝗲𝗎. It could be that Diaz and 𝗍𝗫𝗍 both play. It could be Brewster. It could be O'Hare. We just don't know who fits into Sheffield United's best 11 right now in this position. So there we have it. They're the options. That's the debate. And with our late season loss of form, where things seem to go a little bit wrong, finding the answers are really crucial to make sure that we attack the playoffs and that we come into them properly and ready to go on and cement ourselves as the 3rd best team in this division, and therefore the rightful team that get promoted to the Premier League. But you know what else? And for all of that conversation, for everything we've just gone through, all of the questions, these aren't bad questions to have, because we're thinking about it. And can you imagine Bristol City? They would love to have this debate. They would love to be sat there thinking, where do we play Callum O'Hare? How do we get the most value out of Rob Holding, a man who's played 100 games almost for Arsenal? How do we make sure we've got different options? Can we mix it up? Have we only got one way of playing? We can change to suit the game in front of us. All season long, United's biggest problem has been that when we go behind, we can't change games. We haven't been able to come back in games when we're 1-0 down. We've now tried and tested 2 different systems, one of which is more attack-minded, one of which gives us more control over a game as a whole. We can change that in-game really easily with subs coming off the bench. Say, take off Callum O'Hare, put on 𝗍𝗲𝗎, and suddenly you can switch your system entirely to try and cause more problems, to try and play a little bit more direct and in a different way. For the first time this season, it actually feels as though we could change a game in-game by making a subtle tactical switch, which will give us the opportunity and maybe will be the thing that drives us. Maybe that's what we've been missing, and that's what we need to attack the playoffs. We've got so many options to come off the bench as game changers. If you start 𝗍𝗫𝗍 and Diaz comes on, Come on, that's not a bad sub to be able to make. If you start with 𝗬𝗲, it doesn't quite work. You put 𝗍𝗫𝗍 on and suddenly you're attacking. This again, it works for us. These aren't terrible questions to answer. We can now be positive. We can now be proactive. And we can use these questions and the exact questions that we're trying to answer. By not having an answer to them, maybe that's what wins us the playoffs. The unpredictability and the fact that we can change and be proactive with how we want to play. So here we are. Do I know our best team? No. Is it a settled 11 and is it got the partnerships running through the team the way exactly how we would want them? No. But you know who else doesn't know our best team and therefore doesn't know how to prep for us? That's Bristol City. And after United have won 92 points this season, after we have won 28 games of football, imagine what it looks like when this does click and when we do know our best 11. That is a position that I want to see United be in. So, we go into Thursday, we sing loud, we sing proud, we believe in what this team can do, what they're going to achieve for us this season, and we trust that this time, for the first time in, well, ever, this time it's going to be different. This time we are going to win. This time, the 10th time is the charm. Let's do it.
𝗚𝗿𝗲𝗷𝗚